The stars were peaceful, until the first scream tore through space. Earth's colonies on the outer rim had lived quietly for years. Trade was growing. Peace was holding. Then came the Kivanti. No warning, no demands. Just fire, a small outpost. Named Nova 19, home to only a few hundred humans and alien allies, was the first to fall. Ships were torn apart. Atmospheres ripped open. And in the middle of the chaos stood one human who didn't run Corporal Mason Halla. Mason, a combat medic, wasn't a hero. He didn't look for medals. He just wanted to keep people alive. But when the siren screamed and the sky turned red, he grabbed his medpack and sprinted toward the noise. Not away from it. Near the burning edge of the base, he found her. Slumped behind a collapsed metal wall was a Cathari female, an alien. Species known for their proud culture and extreme sensitivity to smells. Her skin shimmered pale violet in the flickering firelight. One leg was twisted unnaturally. Blood dark green and slow pooled around her. Her breathing was sharp, uneven. "You're not one of them," Mason said quietly, kneeling. The girl tried to speak, but only a pained hiss came out. "Don't move." "I'm here to help," he added, pulling out a medical injector. "You'll live, but it'll hurt." Her hand snapped up, claws brushing his wrist. "Why?" She rasped. "Because I'm human," he said simply. 3 hours later, the attack was over. The invaders retreated without a trace. The girl was unconscious but stable. Mason carried her back to the underground medbay. Others were dead or gone. Command was in chaos. Communications were silent. But he stayed by her side, cleaning wounds and running diagnostics. Her translator implant slowly activated. When she awoke again, her eyes locked onto him. She sniffed the air sharply. "What? Is that smell?" she asked, nose wrinkling. Mason blinked. "What smell?" She pointed a trembling finger toward a steaming metal mug on the table. That thing you keep drinking from." "I smelled it even in sleep." Mason picked it up, confused. "This? It's just coffee." She looked horrified. "Poison." He laughed. "No, not poison. Just strong. It wakes us up." "Wakes you up by burning your insides?" He shrugged. "Sort of. It's a human thing." She stared in disbelief. "You drink this every morning?" "Every single one," he said. Proudly, sipping again, she gagged. Mason offered her water and a nutrient bar. She sniffed both before cautiously accepting. But her attention kept drifting back to the mug of dark, bitter coffee. "Why do your people consume such strange things?" she asked. "We're built tough," Mason replied, "and stubborn." She watched him quietly, then looked away. "I owe you." He shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. Just heal up." She paused. "My name is Valori. I'm not like the Kivanti. I was a prisoner when the warship came. They never knew I escaped." "Then you're safe now," Mason said gently. "I'll protect you." Valari looked at him strangely. "Even if I am alien?" He grinned. "Especially because of that." Outside, Nova 19 lay in ruins. Help wasn't coming anytime soon. But inside that small medbay, a bond was forming. Between human and alien. Between coffee and curiosity. Between a war that tore galaxies apart and two strangers who might just save each other. Valari stared once more at the mug and whispered to herself, "I must understand this poison." Valari could barely move, but her mind was racing. The human Mason was strange. He had saved her life, treated her wounds, and offered her warmth. But the strangest thing of all was still that dark poison he called coffee. She had seen him drink it 3 times since waking up. Each time, he made a small, satisfied sound, like a growl mixed with pleasure. Now, she was watching him. From the bed as he sat near the broken console, fixing wires and sipping that awful-smelling liquid again. Do you drink that every morning? She asked. Frowning. Mason chuckled. Yeah, some humans drink it 2 or 3 times a day. We call it our fuel. Valari blinked. Fuel? Like a ship? He grinned. Exactly. She sniffed the air and almost gagged. Your fuel smells like wet burnt wood in pain. It's an acquired taste, Mason said, sipping again. Want to try it? Valari recoiled. Are you trying to kill me? Come on, just a sip. She narrowed her eyes. You're daring me, aren't you? Mason leaned forward. Only if you're brave enough, her pride flared. Kithuri were warriors, even if she was a diplomat's daughter. Fine, she said, but if I die, I'll haunt you. With a trembling hand, Valari took the mug and sniffed again. Her face twisted. She took the tiniest sip. Her entire body jolted. Mason burst out laughing as she coughed, eyes wide, tail twitching in confusion. What is that? She gasped, holding her throat. That, my friend, Mason said proudly, is life juice. Later that morning, while Mason repaired the last parts of the emergency beacon, Valari sat quietly in her cot, sipping warm broth. She kept stealing glances at the now empty mug near Mason's hand. She didn't understand him. Humans were known across the galaxy as strange, stubborn, and unpredictable. But Mason was different. He didn't ask for anything in return. He didn't try to lock her up like the Cavanti. He didn't see her as a threat. He treated her like an equal. Valari wasn't used to that. Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from the console. Mason jumped up. The beacon's working. He quickly pressed buttons, routing a distress signal to the nearest friendly outpost. Valari stood, wobbling slightly. Will they come? If they hear us? Yeah. And if they don't? He looked at her with calm eyes. Then we survive. Like we always do. For a moment, Valari said nothing. Then, quietly, why do you risk so much? For someone like me? Mason paused. Because that's what we humans do. We help. We don't leave people behind. She studied his face. Even alien ones? He nodded. Especially alien ones. The two sat in silence, the only sound being the hum of the old generator and the soft crackle of the fire Mason had built from ruined furniture. Then Valari said, something that surprised even herself. Tomorrow morning? If we're still alive, I want to try that coffee again. Mason smirked. You're braver than most humans. She tilted her head. Or just insane. They both laughed, but just outside the broken outpost, in the dark canyons below, something stirred. Metal claws scraped rock. Eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. The Cavanti weren't finished. Asterisk night returned to Nova 19. The stars above looked peaceful. But down in the cracks of the ruined canyon, something was crawling, something not peaceful at all. The Cavanti scout was silent as death. It crept on 4 sharp limbs, sensors glowing dim red, cloaked in dark armor. It sniffed the air chemical trails, heat waves, human footprints. It had found the outpost's remains, and inside, it sensed survivors. Its orders were clear. No survivors. Inside the medbay, Valari tossed in her sleep, her body still healing. She let out soft murmurs, words from her dreams. Her claws twitched. Her ears folded. She was dreaming of her home. A warm garden. The smell of flowers. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open. She sniffed the air. Something wasn't right. Not the smell of coffee. Something else. Burnt oil, plasma coils, blood. Her heart raced. Mason. She whispered. Mason was half asleep in a chair, wrapped in a thermal blanket, a coffee mug still beside him. At her voice, he stirred, eyes heavy. What's wrong? He mumbled. Something's here, Valari said, sitting up fast. Something bad. Mason blinked. I didn't hear anything. She pointed toward the vent shaft. I smell it. It's Kivanti Tech. I know that scent. It's below us. Now Mason was fully awake. He grabbed his sidearm and checked the chamber. Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Valari grabbed his arm. No, you'll die alone. Take me. You're still hurt. I'm still faster than you, she said, voice hard. Mason stared at her for a second. Then nodded. They moved slowly through the broken hallway, lights flickering overhead. Valari held a pipe as a weapon. Mason had his sidearm ready. He tapped into the base sensors, but most were offline. Then a loud clang echoed from below. Something was climbing up the shaft. Mason aimed. Ready? Valari took a deep breath. No, but go. A second later, the vent exploded open. A black claw shot out. The Kivanti scout launched forward, snarling in machine-like bursts. Mason fired. The shot hit its shoulder but didn't stop it. The creature slashed the wall, sparks flying. Valari ducked under its arm and slammed her pipe into its back. It didn't scream. It just turned and charged again. Fall back. Mason shouted. They ran through the corridor, dodging rubble and broken doors. The Kivanti chased, clicking faster, angrier. It didn't need to kill them both. Just make them slow. They reached the main reactor room, still powered, still hot. Get behind me. Mason shouted, reloading. No, Valari sighed. She grabbed a broken wire from the floor, still sparking, and looked at the pool of leaking fuel by the doorway. Lure it to me, she whispered. Mason hesitated, but trusted her. He took a shot and ran left. The Kivanti followed. Valari stepped forward. As the metal beast lunged toward her, she shoved the live wire into the fuel. Boom! Flames burst out, blowing the creature back in a ball of fire. Mason shielded Valari as the room shook. When the fire cleared, the Kivanti scout was motionless, burned, cracked, and silent. Valari coughed, falling to her knees. Mason caught her. You okay? I think? I understand now, she said weakly. Understand what? She looked at him and smiled faintly. This is why you humans drink that poison. You face death every day. You need something to keep you awake. Mason laughed breathlessly. Exactly. That night, they stayed awake together, guarding the ruined hallway. No more scouts came, but they both knew this was just the beginning. And tomorrow morning, Valari would ask for another sip of that bitter human magic. The burned Kivanti scout still smoked in the hallway. Mason and Valari stood over its body, tired but alive. Valari wiped ash from her cheek. That was no ordinary scout. That model is used for tracking and reporting. Mason's face turned serious. So it wasn't just hunting. It was sending data back. They both went quiet. If they know we're alive. Valari started. They'll send more, Mason finished. He looked around the broken outpost, thinking, we need to find a way off this rock. Your distress beacon? Not strong enough? It only reaches nearby satellites and we don't even know if any are still working, Valari frowned. Then we search for a long-range transmitter. There must be something deeper in the base. The tunnels under Nova 19 were mostly forgotten. Old storage rooms, backup labs, and sealed doors hidden beneath dust and rust. Mason had only been down there once during a drill years ago. He didn't remember much. Just that it was cold, dark, and strange. They found a locked door at the bottom of an old elevator shaft. The power was weak, but Mason pried it open using a crowbar. The air inside was stale. Valari sniffed. Something very old is down here. They stepped inside. Lights flickered on slowly, revealing rows of black containers and a metal archway in the center of the room. What is this? Valari asked. Mason brushed dust off a console. Looks like an abandoned experiment zone. Valari moved closer to the archway. Symbols alien and human were carved across its frame. "Why would your people hide this?" she whispered. "I don't know," Mason said, "but we're about to find out." They activated the terminal. A hologram blinked on. It showed an Earth officer, General McCrae, from decades ago. "This project is classified," the recording said. "The gateway below Nova 19 is experimental, built using Cathari crystal tech and human energy weapons. It is capable of opening small portals, possibly even across star systems." Valari gasped. "A teleportation gate?" Mason leaned closer. "That's how we escape." But then the recording continued. "Warning. During testing, the gate created unstable energy surges. Several scientists were lost. Project shut down. Entry is forbidden." The message ended. Mason stared at the console. Valari stepped back from the arch. "It's too risky." "We don't have time," Mason replied. "The Cavanti are coming." Suddenly the console beeped. "Motion alert." Something had entered the outer hallway. Valari turned fast. "More scouts?" Mason drew his weapon. "We need to make a choice. Fight them or risk the gate." Valari looked at the black arch. Its frame was humming faintly. She gritted her teeth. "I say we open it." Mason nodded. They began powering up the generator using spare coils from the ruined medbay. As the gate came online, the air crackled. Lights flashed. Wind pulled toward the arch, and from the hallway they heard clicking again. "Here they come," Mason said, stepping between her and the door. Valari turned back to the gate. Then, just for a second, she glanced toward the corner table. "Do you have any more of that human poison?" Mason smiled and handed her a warm canister. Even in the apocalypse, coffee first. She took a sip, grimaced, then stood taller. "Let's go." Behind them, the gate opened, swirling, glowing, unknown. In front of them, shadows grew as the Cavanti drew closer, but together they were ready to leap into the fire. Or beyond it. The swirling light of the gate filled the underground room. Mason held Valari's hand tightly. The hum of the machine grew louder, pulling at their clothes, shaking the floor. Behind them, heavy steps echoed. Cavanti scouts approaching fast. "We go now," Valari shouted. "Together," Mason said. And they jumped. The light swallowed them whole. It was like falling without moving. Cold air, flashing colors, and a deep sound like thunder underwater. Valari cried out. Mason felt his chest tighten. Then silence. They landed hard on metal. Valari rolled over, coughing. Mason blinked. They weren't in Nova 19 anymore. Above them stretched a vast chamber. Ancient, dusty, but alive with soft blue light. Giant walls of crystal hummed with power. Alien machines long dead stood in silence. And in the center, a tree. A real tree. Green leaves. Thick roots. Glowing fruit. Mason stared. "Where are we?" Valari looked around slowly. "This is Cathari design, but it's older than anything I've ever seen." Mason walked to the tree. "Is it safe?" Valari sniffed the air. "The scent? It's pure, strong. This place was built to protect life." Mason knelt by a panel near the floor. It blinked to life. A calm, female voice spoke in ancient Cathari, then switched to English. "Welcome, travelers. You have entered the sanctuary of Seed One." "Sanctuary?" Valari repeated. The voice continued. "Built to preserve the last hope of the Cathari worlds. This tree is the original life tree. Its fruit can heal. Its core can power worlds. Protect it." Mason whistled. "We just found something big," Valari nodded slowly. "No wonder the Cavanti wanted this place. This isn't just a hideout. It's a weapon or a cure." Suddenly the gate behind them sparked. Mason turned. They're trying to come through. Valari stepped forward. We can't let them take this. But how do we stop them? Mason asked. The tree pulsed. Then, as if answering them, a panel slid open from the floor. Inside, a small device shaped like a crystal and a gun combined. VLAR. I lifted it carefully. This is a seed core weapon. My people spoke of it in legends. It doesn't just destroy, it changes. Mason looked curious. Changes how? It turns machines into soil, turns weapons into dust. It's alive. And it's ours now, Mason said. They ran back to the gate. Cavanti shapes began pushing through, half-formed, glitching, snarling. Valari raised the seed weapon and fired. Soft hum shot forward. The first Cavanti scout froze, then cracked. Its metal melted into dust, its wires crumbled into vines. It vanished into green. Mason grinned. Remind me to never make you angry. As the gate powered down, Valari placed her hand on the controls. We can't stay here, she said. But now we have something the galaxy doesn't know exists. Mason looked at the glowing fruit. And we have a reason to fight. They packed what they could: a seed core, a few fruits, and a data tablet from the sanctuary. Then Valari set the gate to close. Where are we going? Mason asked. Wherever we're needed, she said. As the gate faded and silence returned. The room once again stood empty, but now hope had escaped. The small cargo ship flew fast through deep space. Its engines stretched to the limit. Inside, Mason was piloting while Valari checked the seed core, making sure it was stable. The glowing weapon hummed quietly, wrapped in protective cloth. They had escaped the sanctuary. But the Cavanti had followed. Another ping, Valari said. They're tracking our energy signature. Mason tapped the dashboard. We'll change direction again. We've already changed 5 times. They don't give up easy. Valari sighed. They want the seed core, or to destroy it. Either way, they won't stop. Later, Valari stared at the small fruit they had taken from the tree. It glowed softly in her hands. This fruit could cure entire planets, she whispered. It could end wars. Mason nodded. Or start new ones. He looked at her. We can't let governments get it. Not yet. Not until we know how to use it the right way. Valari met his eyes. Then we protect it. Just us. She sat beside him. You know. I used to think humans were loud, chaotic, dangerous. We are, Mason replied with a grin. But now I see something else too, she said softly. You protect what you care about, even if it burns you. He lifted his coffee mug. Speaking of burning, Valari groaned. You brought more? Mason handed her a fresh cup. You said you were learning to like it. She took a sip. Still bitter, still strong. But now, it felt warm, familiar. I'll never understand you, she muttered. Suddenly, alarms blared. Mason jumped to the controls. We've got incoming. 3 Cavanti ships closing fast. Valari grabbed the seed core. Then we fight. They've got firepower, Mason warned. We don't. Valari's eyes narrowed. But we have this. They powered up the weapon. Valari aimed it through the ship's rear hatch as the Cavanti ships fired plasma blasts. One shot hit the engine, shaking the cabin. Just a few seconds more. Mason said. VLAR. I pulled the trigger. A pulse of green light shot out, not to destroy but to change. One Cavanti ship blinked, shook, then began to fall apart. Its weapons turned to vines. Its body broke into dust. The other 2 ships backed off, confused. They've never seen this before, Mason whispered. They're afraid, Valari said, but then her smile faded. They'll send more, Mason looked at her. Then we send a message. They used the ship's old comms and broadcast a short video to nearby systems. Mason appeared on screen. To all who are listening, this is Corporal Mason Hawley. We have something powerful, something alive. We don't want war, but we won't run. Valari stepped beside him. This seed doesn't belong to conquerors. It belongs to healers. If you try to take it, be ready to face the truth. They ended the broadcast. Then they flew into the dark, not knowing who would respond. But now, everyone in the stars had seen them, and the hunt was no longer in the shadows. Asterisk. The stars were silent, but war was coming. Mason and Valari had become targets. Every powerful group, pirates, governments, warlords, and Cavanti commanders wanted the seed core and the tree's healing fruit. Their ship was damaged. Their supplies low. But they had something the galaxy didn't: hope, and one small, glowing fruit that could change everything. They landed on a peaceful moon called Taraxis 5, where small refugee camps lived hidden in the mountain forests. Valari stepped out first, carrying the fruit in a sealed case. Children gathered around her, wide-eyed. One girl coughed hard, her skin pale and thin. Valari knelt and opened the case. Carefully, she broke off a tiny piece of the fruit and gave it to the child. Mason watched. Within minutes, color returned to the girl's face. She sat up straight, her breath steady again. The crowd gasped. Mason whispered, "You didn't have to share it." Valari looked at him. "Yes, I did. That's what you taught me." But peace didn't last. Hours later, the sky filled with ships. Cavanti. War vessels. Their leader stepped down, tall, armored, cruel-eyed. "You are carrying forbidden technology," he barked. "Hand it over or be destroyed." Valari stood tall. "This isn't technology. It's life." "You were one of us," the Cavanti growled. "Now you stand with them?" She didn't blink. "I stand with those who save, not those who destroy." Mason stepped beside her, holding the seed core weapon. "You want it? Come and try." The alien leader raised his hand to give the attack signal, but then something unexpected happened. One of the Cavanti soldiers stepped back, then another, and another. They had seen the broadcast. They had seen the healing. Some of them had lost family to war. And now, for the first time, they hesitated. Valari raised her voice. "We don't have to keep choosing war. This fruit, this gift, it can feed millions, cure diseases, grow forests. But only if we stop killing each other." The alien leader snarled. Then a young Cavanti officer stepped forward and threw down his weapon. The others followed, one by one. Soldiers lowered their guns. The commander looked around and realized he had lost more than just a battle. He turned and left. Later that night, by the fire, Mason poured Valari a cup of coffee. She sniffed it, still bitter, still strong, but this time she smiled and took a full sip. "I think," she said, "I finally understand why you love this poison." Mason grinned. "And?" Valari looked into the stars. "It burns, but it keeps you awake, just like hope." The galaxy didn't change overnight, but word spread of the tree, the fruit, the human and alien who protected it. Some called them heroes, others rebels, but to those they saved, they were family, and every morning before the work began, they sat side by side, a human, an alien girl, and one mug of strange, wonderful poison.